multiply the top numbers first. 150 times 2 is 300, and then you divide by 30. But people make a mistake when they put this into the calculator. Always put the top number into the calculator first, the 300, then hit the divide sign, then put the 30, and that should give you the 10 MAS. All right, on page 10 of the notes, this is the last math formula. It's called the inverse square law. And pretty much what it tells you is it's talking about your distance from the source of radiation and how much exposure you get. The further you are away from the radiation, the less exposure you're going to have. So you'll see a problem like this. It says at a distance of 6 feet, the exposure is 90 rems. What is the exposure at 3 feet? So the first thing you ask yourself is, did the person get closer or further away? They got closer. They were first at 6 feet, and then they were only at 3 feet after that. So they got 3 feet closer. So the formula for that is right here. I1 over I2 is equal to D2 squared over D1 squared. So what you should do in the problem is label these numbers. I1 is always the exposure. So this would be I1, the 90 rems. D1 is the first distance mentioned, so that's D1. D2 is the second distance mentioned. Okay, so you just take this formula and you put those three numbers into it. So I1 is 90 rems. We're always going to figure out the second exposure. That's I2. That's X. D2 squared. So D2, the second distance is 3 feet. And the first distance is 6 feet. Now, don't make the mistake to put these in the wrong order. The second distance goes on top. Okay? And the first distance mentioned goes on the bottom. And then you have to square it. Now this 3 squared, that doesn't mean 3 times 2. What does it mean?
3 squared. 3 times 3.
Right, it's 3 times 3. This would be 6 times 6. So we're just following the arrows here. We went from there to there. We've got our 90 rems over X. This is always X in this formula. 3 squared over 6 squared. That's 9 over 36. And we bring down the 90 rems times X. What we're trying to do is figure out what this X is. So the next thing you do is you cross multiply. You take this number and go diagonally across and multiply it by that number in this one, and go over and multiply by that number. So you take 90 times 36, that equals 3,240. And then 9 times X is 9X. So really what you have is this. 3,240 is equal to 9X. So then you're going to figure out what is 9. So you divide by 9 on both sides. So 3,240 divided by 9 equals 360. That's telling you what this number is. That's your new exposure. So that's kind of like a quick way to run through it. But what you're looking at is we know they got closer in this example, so our answer should be higher than this, right? If they got closer, they should have more exposure. And as long as this number is higher than this one, we know that we are probably pretty close to the right answer.